Ishtiyaq Shukri is the South African author of two books, The Silent Minaret and I See You. Last week, he was detained at Heathrow Airport for over 9 hours before being deported from the country. It's important to note that he's a resident of the UK. His wife is British and they have a home there together. Mr. Shukri, thank you so much for joining us today. Won't you please start us off by explaining what happened to you at Heathrow Airport?
Yes, well, firstly, I'd like to say that, you know, one would prefer to be in the news for one's writing than rather one's deportation. And I would like to start by thanking all those who have supported me since, especially my publishers, Jacana Media, and Professor Isabel Hofmeyer and Dr. Pam Nichols-Advitz, who spearheaded the statement that went out yesterday. What happened at Heathrow last week was extremely unpleasant. I was detained, as you know, for 9.5 hours and eventually deported from the country. Yes, it's not the first time I've been detained, but it is the first time I was deported, and that was very shocking. London, as you know, has been my home. I have had permanent residence there since my marriage in 1997. I had all the paperwork on me, even my marriage certificate. So I was quite surprised by the outcome.
I think the thing that is shocking to so many of us who've heard the story is that you are married, you live in the UK, you have a home there. When you explained this to the authorities at Heathrow, were they unwilling to listen? What happened?
Yes, I did. They saw my marriage certificate. I had coincidentally been in touch with the Home Office 3 weeks prior to my departure for the UK. I have my permanent residence stamp in an old passport, and I hadn't been in touch with the Home Office in the UK to have that stamp transferred to my new passport. I showed immigration officials the correspondence. I'd given them my wife's phone number. They never called her. So yes, and the reasons given were, I'll just read them out to you. Insufficient reliable information to decide on whether to grant me temporary admission. Well, as I said, you know, I have a residence stamp. I had my marriage certificate on me. And I have not produced satisfactory evidence of identity, nationality, or lawful basis to be in the UK. Well, that's just mind-boggling, actually.
I'm absolutely baffled that a marriage, a home, a life, a writing career was not enough to gain you entry. But then we must also look at the fact that your wife has worked as country director of Oxfam in Yemen, and you visited her there a few times. Of course, it would be utterly unfair to flag you for your visits to the country, but could it have influenced their decision or their thinking?
Well, I mean, I can't speculate as to that, but I do know that paperwork I had from my visits to Yemen had been singled out and set aside for closer inspection. My visits to Yemen were perfectly legitimate. My wife's work there for Oxfam was perfectly legitimate. And so I really can't understand if that is an issue. I can't understand